Today, as is our custom, let me turn off my phone so nobody bothers us. Let's begin with a meditation. So let's all close your eyes and relax and get comfortable in your seat. And take in a deep breath through the nose and hold. And exhale through the mouth and hold. And again, inhale through the nose and hold. And exhale through the mouth and hold. And as you go at your own pace of inhaling and exhaling, if thoughts should come into your mind, just observe them and let them go. Like watching a car move past on the freeway. Now is not the time for solving problems. Now is not the time for planning. All you need to do is inhale through the nose and hold. And exhale through the mouth and hold. And on your next inhale, say to yourself, Shema. And on the exhale, listen. Shema, listen. In Shema, we're listening deeply, without judgment, without offering advice. In Shema, we are listening with an open heart. Shema, listen. And when you're ready, you may open your eyes. Hey, Stephanie, Grace, hey, Bonnie, welcome. It's always like, I always wonder when I open my eyes after the meditation, who's going to be there? You know, it's like a little surprise. So someday it'll be Elijah, and then we'll all really be excited. But till that day, today we are going to start exploring the soul trait of equanimity. And when I first started studying Mussar, I like flipped through the book and I'm like, okay, equanimity, that's what I need. You know, I'm too stressed out. And I started reading the chapter and I had no idea what it was talking about. And I've come to realize that equanimity is something which is better studied later in the journey. After there's a foundation of Mussar practice, after there's a foundation of kind of other soul traits, because so often what disturbs our equanimity actually turns out to be some other soul trait that's out of balance. And we'll explore that aspect more next week in our second week of equanimity. So today we'll get started, as we always do, with a question for discussion. Let's see. And so the question, whoops, what have I done? So the question is, there's a quote from Heshbon Hanefesh, which, Christo, is that in your collection?
Not yet.
Okay, it's a good
It's
one.
not on sale. It's not on sale yet, so I didn't get it yet.
So it's Menachem Mendeleev. He wrote a book, 13 Soul Traits. And so one of his ideas is to rise above the good and the bad. And so I guess the question I want to talk about is why would we want to rise above the good? Rise above the good and bad. Don't let them disturb your equanimity. And so why would we want to rise above the good? And then maybe, have you ever gotten, in trouble or lost your equanimity because of something that was good that happened? Yeah, Bonnie.
Well, I think that sometimes I'm not speaking for anyone else, can feel, I don't want to use the word superior, but when I achieve something or something really goes well, I feel really good about it and I'm glad. But sometimes it can be obnoxious. And I need to make sure that I gutted a house. Now I've built and gutted 5 other houses before this, but this is the first time I ever did it by myself. And my wonderful contractor and designer say, you didn't do it by, we were here with you. Of course they were. But I realized that I can't constantly just talk about it, even though it was just a fabulous experience. And I love the company and they're local, and so I've been raving about them for the last year. But I need to tone it down. And I think that's, and in fact, I emailed you about a whole issue that I've been dealing with on this whole balance equanimity thing.
Yeah.
But I need to tone some things down because I can get very excited.
Mm-hmm.
So that's where I saw the rise above.
Yeah. So what I'm hearing you say is, you get so excited about something that it can kind of become a little bit obnoxious. And sometimes you need to tone it down. Great. Thank you. Martin, I saw your hand. Let's see, you're still muted.
How's that?
There we go.
I've been involved in some local political activity and chairs and presidents of different organizations. And what I found early in that career was if I get a political win, my ego pumps up. And I'm thinking, oh, wow, if I just say something, it becomes law. As I study and enjoy studying history and including political persons, I see how that can lead into a trouble position. Anyway, I caught myself and I said, oh my God, it's hey, you can see how tempting it is. And to let the ego start. Anyway, so there's an example of doing good for the community, and all of a sudden I got an ego high. And anyway, so that was my. I'm glad I caught myself about that. So.
Yeah, no, that's great, and that sort of self-awareness is so powerful and so important. And yeah, absolutely. Ego inflation, when good things start to happen, and when the ego inflates, we become at risk for all kinds of self-defeating behaviors.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you, Carrie.
When we first started school, when I first started studying Mussar, or when I start studying anything that I think is just fabulous and wonderful, I want to share it with everybody. So I overshare. I give my kids books. I say, you've got to do this. It's wonderful. You'll really love it. And now my daughter says, oh, it's your hippie class. So I have to, I have to tone it down, as everybody's saying, just, yes, I'm interested in X, Y, and Z, but I don't have to, give them tons of books or articles or anything like that. So I'm learning.
Yeah, thank you, Carrie. And what I'm hearing you say, what I'm hearing is implicit in what you're saying, I think, and correct me if I'm wrong, is maybe being sensitive to what people are interested in hearing about. That it is about, as Ira Stone would say, our big task in Mussar is bearing the burden of the other. And even if it's like, wow, this is going to change your life and it's so great, you should do this. But if someone's not ready for that, or someone's not interested, or if they don't get it, then it's counterproductive. Am I on the right track here? Yeah.
Yes, you're on the right track.
Great, thank you. Marianne, hello.
Hi, yeah. I think sometimes, like if something good happens, my mood goes like this, or someone says something bad, it goes like this. And so I think to be on that roller coaster
Hmm.
is not necessarily a good thing. And so maybe that's why it's not good to always react so positively to the good.
Yeah, I think that's a great example. And I actually wrote about that in my book. One thing I started doing to practice equanimity is I would try to get less hyped up about good things, because I found that that helped me. You know, it's not about like being calm and tranquil all the time. It's about, you know, sort of staying centered. I remember once my first book that I wrote as a serial on my blog, and I was obsessive about the blog traffic. And I remember once I got really excited because I had like 10,000 visitors in a day or something. It was like way, you know, more, maybe 10,000 in a week. I can't remember, it was a while ago. But I was so like excited. I used to be very active on Twitter. And so I started tweeting with someone, and I don't know, I thought I was just kind of bantering, but I ended up getting called an ass, you know, and I was like, okay, I was just too hyped up, you know, I was sort of a little full of myself and trying to be too cute, and I didn't know this person, and they took it the wrong way. And so I was like, okay, you know, that was me not being centered. And so that's one example I think about as well. All right, well, let's go a little deeper. Hi, Irene, nice to see you. Okay, so our assumption for, and for those of you who are new to the practice, these are the 4 assumptions for what I call an American Mussar practice. And we don't necessarily have to agree with all of them, but if you assume that they're true, they can kind of help you with the practice. They can sort of give guidance. And I've tried to distill a lot of Jewish teachings into these 4 principles. And the one that I think is particularly interesting for equanimity is that we all have free will, but it's not always accessible. And so I'm going to stop the share here. So when it comes to like equanimity, what does that have to do with like, you know, free will and it not being accessible? Or what does free will and not being accessible have to do with anything, perhaps? Yeah, Martin.
When you say, when the sentence says not accessible, I would suggest it is accessible. It's just that our free will is not deciding to go there.
Okay.
I think it's always accessible. But you're choosing not to go there. That's my comment about it.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I think that free will is such a tricky thing. And the way I think about it is that, you know, when I get really mad, you know, words might come out of my mouth, and, you know, I'll just like, boom, I'll just start yelling, or I'll say something that's rather unfortunate. And, you know, in theory, I had free will, but I was so like wound up that I didn't, you know, either I chose not to invoke it, if we use Martin's model, or it was just so hard to get to because I was wound up that I couldn't get there. Irene, can you mute, please? There we go. So other thoughts, again, how might this relate to some of these ideas of equanimity? Yeah, Nancy. So if you could remember to unmute, please.
Thank you. I'm not sure if I'm really, kind of understanding the way this is going, but to me, equanimity is negative, meaning that, when I looked up the definition, it said a sense of calmness, composure, and an evenness of temper. And then when you talked about the other question of why would we want to rise about the good, if that's what it was. But I was thinking about it because to me, this goes along with the soul trait of patience. And this is equanimity is something that I've really had to learn a lot about, both in terms of if I think I'm right, like other people have shared, I want to, like, oh, I'm so excited, I want you to do this, and I just can't shut up. But on the other hand, it's gotten me to think that there's a difference between equanimity and speaking up for yourself, and not being unpleasant, but speaking kindly to someone, and that things could always be worse. And it's really not about you, because sometimes we take it so personally that we get so worked up that the other person could be going through something that we're not aware of. So again, bring down the calmness in me to make them feel maybe more comfortable in the situation. And looking beyond and having a different perspective. To me, that's what equanimity is kind of all about. Because if I really look at the whole picture, I don't jump. I just like, oh, this is what it is. So I remain calm. If I get mad and start yelling at somebody, it's gotten really, really, really out of hand. So I've really learned to navigate it in my life.
Yeah, no, I think it's really interesting because a lot of definitions do sort of equate equanimity with calm, and that's an element to it. But I think in the Mussar context, I think as we'll see, there's something more to it as well, because we could, go off to a monastery somewhere or lock ourselves in a room and never interact with other people, and maybe be calm all the time, or sleep all the time, and we'd be calm. But when we're out in the world, stuff's going to happen. And so it's how do we react when those things happen? And I think where we're going, and I'm realizing I probably should have had more of a definition. And one thing I would add to that, the tweak that I would make is, it's actually a bit more about staying centered and being present, even amidst like the stresses, which I think was kind of implicit. And part of what you were saying is like,
oh, definitely. Yeah,
yeah,
I think you got it. That's what I meant. If I really look at the other perspective, I'm going to be more centered, and I'm not going to let things get out of control. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, and I think that's a great way to put it. It's about not letting things getting out of control, which is a handful for a definition, but I think it's really important. Okay, so let's continue our journey a little bit further. And so here, this relates to kind of what we're talking about. May I have a volunteer to read the mantra, which is in italics above the spectrum of equanimity.
Better to surf the waves of life than get pounded or swept away.
Great, thank you. Okay, so what is that? Was that Marianne? Yes, thank you. Okay, I couldn't see you because I had the screen up. So what does that mean? Better to surf the waves of life rather than get pounded or swept away. Yeah, Carrie.
Isn't that what we all try to do? But aren't always successful. I mean, I think that's what, at least I think everybody in this group is trying to do that, surf the waves and, not get beat up and make it through unscathed and be able to contribute and be okay.
Yeah, so I think it's a good summary of kind of the mindfulness journey or the spiritual journey that we're all embarking on. Yeah, thank you. What else? Irene, did I see your hand? Or was it Bonnie? I couldn't quite tell.
Yes, yeah, I had a hand up.
Okay.
Bonnie may have also. I think surfing, how did you put it? Better to
Better
Ride
to
the
surf
surf.
surf the waves of life than get pounded or swept away.
Right. So if you surf the waves of life, it's kind of you're riding successfully on top of them. If you're getting pounded, they're riding you essentially.
Hmm. Yeah,
It's not as comfortable.
no, it certainly isn't. And there's an active element. It's you're not just sitting there waiting to happen. You're really trying to react and work your way through like these waves of life. It's not like nothing's going to happen. I mean, COVID's going to hit, illness, employment issues, the annoying person in line in front of you. I mean, these big or small waves are going to show up, and it's how we navigate them. Or the really good things, it's like, oh, I got, this thing done, and I can get sort of swept out to sea because I'm so excited. And that's not a good place to be either. Bonnie.
I think that this pandemic has put a spotlight on this particular soul trait for me. And it's a very strange thing to say that I'm very grateful that I've had not great personal experiences, that I have overdone things. And particularly as you sent out an email yesterday about if any of us have had positive or negative experiences, Greg. And mine for me, and I'm much more aware because of studying this now. Mine for me is when I deal on the phone with a representative who either doesn't understand because of a language barrier or what I'm the problem I have, or doesn't hear I'm trying to come to a resolution. And I get frustrated, and I will be very honest, I get rude. And I've had to now, and I've really worked on it in the last week and a half, step back, take a breath, apologize, and hopefully start over. I'm really good when I deal with somebody who is terrific. And then I go right to the supervisor, and the person says, did I do something wrong? No. On a scale of 1 to 10, you hit a 20, and I want to tell your supervisor, and I'm really good at that. The other part, that goes along with silence and patience. Thank you, Nancy. So I get thrown under those waves. And I'm really working, and I am so appreciative of how supportive this group is that I can say this out loud. And some of you are even nodding your head because maybe your experiences. But I do think that the lack of staff, which we're seeing coming out of the pandemic, wait on hold for 25 minutes and then get disconnected and have to start all over again. So I think the pandemic has been a very strange teacher.
Yeah.
Good leave. Thank you.
Thank you, Bonnie. And your self-awareness is really wonderful, and that's really important because we each are going to have our own situations that push our buttons. And for someone else, it's like, oh, I'm on hold for 30 minutes. Great, I'm playing Wordle. It's no big deal. But some situation that you're perfectly comfortable with, they're going to start getting really impatient or frustrated. So it's really, really a huge part of this practice to figure out where am I, where's my stumbling block, and how can I sort of grow and work on that. So well done. Martin.
And when I find myself surfing the waves, I find what's useful if I can remind myself to read the current. Pay attention not just to the moment of I'm surfing, but what's that next wave going to be doing? Just reading the wave, reading the current. I'm just thinking about the Polynesian cultures where they would read the current to be successful on their journey.
Love it. Yeah, great extension of the metaphor. Thank you, Martin. Marianne.
Well, I guess I take it a little differently. I guess I think of surfing the waves instead of saying I am anxious, saying anxiety is passing through me, or I am this thought. This thought is going through my mind, whereas pounding would be totally identifying with a feeling or a thought. That's how I guess I read that.
Yeah, that's a wonderful a different way to interpret the metaphor is putting it in terms of like how you manage sort of thoughts going through your head, or when you're overly identifying with a particular thought that's leading to anxiety. Absolutely. That can be, sometimes our opening meditation, well, since, we're floating up and down on the waves, so there's a lot of good ocean metaphors that can connect with us in different ways. Stephanie, hi.
Unmute. I guess you can hear me now.
Yeah, I can see you working on it. So
Yeah, my internet's a little slow, so I hope it's not a big problem. But
not at all.
this is such a great topic for me, and I feel I'm so glad that I'm here today, because I feel like I'm going to learn a lot from everybody. I'm going through a lot of things right where I have to make decisions that are very difficult for me. So I'm kind of an uncomfortable place about what's going to happen. I get very anxious and upset because I don't have enough information. Can't find the right resource. And
Stephanie, we're having a little.
I also.
I don't know if you might be able to turn off your video. I don't know if you know how to do
went
that.
out into the ocean with my father. Turn off my video.
Yeah, I did it for you. So
okay.
That should help us hear you better.
Okay, so one of the metaphors that I really resonated with was the surfing, because I remember as a child going out into the ocean with my father. I had not been in the ocean before, and I didn't
You started breaking up again, unfortunately.
Maybe she could put it in the chat.
Yeah, Stephanie, maybe you could try.
do things for myself through times when yeah, I don't know why my internet all of a sudden got so slow. Yeah, sorry, I'll put it in the chat.
Yeah, so sorry about that. I know that's frustrating.
Sorry about that.
So, it's happened to all of us. So it's not a big deal, but I was interested in what you were saying. So I'll look for your comments in the chat. Anyone else have any thoughts about this? All right, well, I'm just going to take a quick peek and see what we have up next. Okay, so I will ask the group. We could go to our breakout groups now, or there's a nice quote which we could spend a couple minutes on and then go to breakout groups. Do people have a preference?
Yeah, let's go to the quote.
Yeah, I'd like to hear the quote.
Yeah,
May help with the breakout group.
right.
I think it probably will, but I know people like to have plenty of time for the breakout groups too. Let's see, this goes here. Go back one. So could someone please unmute and read this quote from Rachel Barenblatt, please?
I admire the ideal of equanimity, of responding to whatever arises from a place of centered acceptance and calm. As long as I do my best to be the kind of person I mean to be, to serve God and my communities in the ways I strive to serve, then that's what matters most. If I focus on my connection with something greater than myself, then I can handle things which seem in my limited understanding to be good or bad with equal grace and presence.
Thank you, Carrie. Okay, I'm going to copy this.
Oh,
Stop share, and then I'm going to copy it and put it in the chat. So what does Rabbi Rachel Baron-Blatt, what are some of the things that stand out for you? What are some of her, what is she trying to teach us? That is in the chat now. Oh, so yeah. Martin.
Perhaps we're not the center of the universe.
Perhaps we're not the center of the universe. Yeah, say more about that. How does that help with equanimity? How does she argue that helps with equanimity?
Let me turn back up here. There we go. Let's see the. Well, let's see. For the quality of being calm, even tempered. Well, I guess it helps I guess it could put us in our own place. Is that if there's if we agree that there's something bigger than us, like a God, then I guess it helps put us in perspective of our pecking order, you might say, of our power.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you, Martin. Other thoughts about the quote or riffing on what Martin had to say? Yeah, Carrie.
I'm getting the sense that she is trying to get us to see that we are one of many, and it's a group effort to get through life. So that by not focusing on yourself, if you're focusing on the community, you know, the best for everybody, and that takes the ego away, and you can better navigate. And that's what I'm feeling from that.
Yeah, so having more perspective, keeping the community in mind, and can help keep the ego at bay. And that's sort of one of the things that we talked about earlier, is that when we start losing our equanimity, or when good things happen, our ego starts getting inflated. Or, you know, we haven't talked about bad things as much, but kind of on the flip side, I sort of got a sense of that with what Martin was talking about, where, oh, well, something happened. It's like, well, take a perspective. There's only so much I can control here. So how worked up do I want to be? And, you know, in 6 months, is this going to be an issue? And, you know, so there's lots of ways that this sort of perspective can help us. All right, so with that, having had a taste of that, let's take a look at the at our task for the breakout groups. So Mark Twain said, "I've lived through some terrible things in my life, some of which actually happened." And so with your partner, you know, talk about, what is Mark Twain talking about? You know, how does this relate to equanimity? And if you've been in this situation, and I know that I certainly have, you know, what are some things we might do to avoid it? Okay, so I'm copying this. Putting it in the chat. Okay, now I'm going to set the breakout groups. That is not right. Boy, I've been away for a week and suddenly suddenly I've forgotten how to create breakout groups. Here we go.
It might be an update on Zoom because there was a couple of them very recently while you're on vacation. That may be why.
Could be. If you have Karen in your group, she let me know that she's in an airport and will just be listening in. Not Karen Kahn, but the other Karen. So yeah, all right. So I'm going to open all the rooms. You will see something come up on your screen inviting you to join a room. Karen, I don't know if you want to join or sign off now, whatever works best for you.